All right. This is an impromptu Shadow Agents. Okay. We've got OpenServ Live back at you with probably what we'll look back on as a history making announcement of the SERV framework, the SERV reasoning framework that will change the world. Built and designed by my friend, my colleague, inventor, Arman Amjalar. Thank you so much for joining us, Arman, to explain this to us.
Thank you for having me, Ryan, again. This is quite the moment, right? Very excited. My heart keeps pounding. Really high octane action tonight. Yeah, very much looking forward to this stream.
Arman is excited. Okay, he was knocking on my door. Okay, saying let's do this, let's do this. And what we're talking about today is why AI agents have felt powerful in theory. Everybody's talking about AI; it's going to change the world, but when you use it, it's so fragile. And what is finally changing here with the serve reasoning framework? For the last few years, founders have been told that AI would let them do more with less, and that part was true. But the part that wasn't true was you could leave it running, and they never talked about the cost of it. They never talked about how difficult it would be for founders. So let's get into that and stay tuned because at the very end, I have a special surprise for our community and those who have been loyal to here, but to us here at OpenServe. But Armand, tell us, what are we looking at here? What is this research paper all about?
Amazing. So today we're going to talk about the first in-house authored research paper coming out of OpenServe. Previously, we had some literature survey research papers with Dr. Eyup Cinar, but this time we have gone the extra mile and created our own reasoning framework and our own approach to solving the problems that you have mentioned, like the problems that are plaguing the industry. And we're putting forward an approach, an architecture, a framework, a thinking strategy that will practically alleviate all of these problems, if not solve all of them. And as we go through the paper today, I'm going to talk about what it means, why it's important. I'm going to go over the sections. It's going to be a little bit academic, so please bear with us. Like, this is the kind of work you see once in every generation. Today, we're going to talk about gains of 30 times, 75 times. That is 3,000%, 7,500% gains, which is something you practically never see in any line of work, let alone AI. So today, we're revealing finally some academic research benchmarks of our approach, which we have proven to be working in our platform with our industry partners that are constantly trying out Braid for a very long time. So we are unveiling, the community knows, the internet knows a little bit about Braid. So far, we have shared, little bits of benchmarks. Our benchmarking webpage is already out there for a very long time, listing our official results. But today we are also releasing the paper on this, the academic paper that we wrote, that we spent countless months and nights on. And I'm very, very proud to be in this situation because with this work, we're finally underlining how OpenServe is different, how OpenServe is better, how we see the AI space to change within our hands. That is within our hands. We're changing what large language models mean for countries, for companies, for the people. We're redefining efficiency with large language models. We're redefining accuracy with large language models. So this is, I hope this is going to be some seminal work. And yeah, I couldn't be more proud. This is one of the most proudest moments of my life, one of my largest academic contributions. Last time I did this work in terms of academic contributions was 15 years ago. I did a similar research study that improved the performance of certain other operations. I was working with brain signals processing. Most of the followers know that. And in that work, I was able to beat the industry by mere 3 to 4 times. And here we're talking about braid, and the gains are 30 times. So we're taking another order of magnitude there and revealing this work that is truly seminal, important for everything we're doing. It's important for the industry. It's important for practically every single AI user on Earth, which is close to 1 billion users right now, plus all the companies, and obviously all of our partners, all of our solution partners, and all of our colleagues and the people that build with us, which is, super proud to be as a place. So let's go.
You heard it here first, okay? This is something we're going to look back on for years, and everyone at OpenServ has worked so hard to get us here. And, Dr. Eyup Cinar, formerly of NVIDIA Research, has pressure tested these ideas for a real system and from real systems and infrastructure perspective to make sure that this is actually technology that works today in OpenServ. It's not theory or marketing or us just here chatting with you to get you excited about the future. This exists today. And this is what actually holds up in production at an enterprise level. And so for founders, this is the most important thing you'll see in AI that you've ever seen before in 2025 and will still be the game changer for 2026. We just wanted the holidays to come a little bit earlier. So, with that, Armand, let's start with the problem the paper is trying to solve and open us up to what the solution that you've come up with brings to the table.
Great. So, as you cited in the beginning, the problem is that these reasoning models are great, but they drift. They don't follow your instructions. They're just not great in understanding your intent and following the exact steps that you think you have done a very good job of writing down in your prompts, right? Every founder, every builder has faced this problem. And what we're revealing today is an approach to structured prompting that practically takes away this issue of dealing with large language models. Sometimes, like, we all work with LLMs in coding as well, like in software engineering, that field has changed significantly. But all of the software engineers out there will agree we're beating our AI assistants to death every single day because they're not following what we're saying. They're not understanding what we want to do. In Cursor, in other tools, we're always like, no, that's not what I meant. I want you to do this change and this change only. Like, you find yourself repeating this all the time. And obviously, this means that AI is not at a stage where it can run autonomously. It just drifts away after a couple of iterations, especially so for the thinking models. The thinking models that the industry revealed that are here to save us are actually drifting away because they're creating their own realities. They're creating a reality in those thinking modes where they go off on a trail and they're so confident about their approach that they stick to it, right? It's very difficult to break that cycle. And you constantly need to chime in and say, wait, that's not actually what I meant. I meant this. No, correct that. That's wrong. And what we were promised in the beginning was like, artificial intelligence will practically ease your life. Now AI will work for you, right? That's where we want to be, but we're not there. Some work needs to exist to close that gap. And that's what we're revealing today. What we have here, Braid, is an architecture that takes you from, it's actually not really following my instructions, I don't know what's wrong with it, to, wait, it's actually doing what I expect it to at a much more efficient economic stage that I can actually use this in production for millions of users. Now, it's normally this requires a lot of manual work. If you put in the work, you can create your own architecture to improve your prompting and improve the performance of your models. But that's also a very much manual process, and not everyone has that rigor and understanding of how to work with large language models, right? No one is an expert. No one has a PhD on these things. Well, a couple of people do. I'm not talking about them. I'm excluding them. The rest of us, we don't have a PhD in this. I have a master's degree. I don't have a PhD. So Braid is practically for everyone else because it's an architecture, it's an approach that lets you automatically shift the performance of your large language models up to, unprecedented levels. Again, like 30x gains, 75x gains. It's huge. It's a huge leap. It's a giant leap in the quality, speed, and the cost of getting what you want. Because that's actually what we're looking at. Like, how much is it going to cost me? How long will it take to get what I want? Will I be able to have the quality that I deserve when I finally have the output of a large language model? Practically, we're solving those challenges here. And we're putting forward an automated way, which can, by the way, theoretically improve with some manual work. But again, that's not something we expect from regular users. We're revealing an automated way of getting from point A to point B, where point A is you're struggling with AI today. Point B is it's like 30 times more efficient, and it does what you want it to do. It's crazy work.
I think we need to take a second here and give credit to Dr. Eyup Cinar, former ex-NVIDIA researcher, right? Why would he be interested in working with you on a small project like OpenServ to solve and believing he could solve the problem that every single AI company, Sam Altman and Elon Musk included, are trying to solve? And why would he believe in you that you could accomplish it?
Amazing question. It was a lot of work. It took me about 6 months to convince Dr. Eyup to join our ranks and do this research with me. And to start from the second question, I don't think it's in the benefit and interest of OpenAI and other companies that large language models are efficient, because they're charging money per use, right? And if there is a conflict of interest here. If the LLM is too good, they don't earn enough money. So the LLM should be good enough to give you the dopamine to continue, but inefficient enough so that they keep earning money. Does it make sense?
Yes, it makes sense. It's called marketing as a product. So they enslave us to having to prompt more and more and more, so we will keep our subscription, make more agent calls and the like.
Yes. And at OpenServ, since our birth, we've believed in human autonomy, right? Enabling human autonomy is one of the first marketing taglines that we came up with before you joined us. And this is practically the next step, an evolution of that, where we truly say, well, now you can have practically the same performance, just 30 times cheaper, all right? Just 30 times cheaper, which is crazy. I'm not saying 30%. I'm saying 30 times cheaper.
Wow.
And it took me 6 months to convince Dr. Eyup, because before we started this academic work, obviously we developed Braid, and we were already using it in production with we have a lot of clients. People on Telegram are constantly asking us about names, but it's not easy in a business setting to name names. It's just the contracts don't allow that. And obviously we're working with multiple companies and huge organizations that are important to the world, okay, that are important to the people. Millions of people are affected by the technology that we're developing here. And we've been using Braid in production for a very long time. But of course, how do you prove that some technique you have is working much better than the state of the art. Like, I had to prove to an academician, to a very established academician, that this is real, that 30x gains are not bogus, right? Does it make sense? Like, it's obviously it's crazy to him too. Like, how, come on, like, what do you mean? Like, this, no one can have 30x gain. And like, for months, we postponed this academic paper. And finally, in the beginning of the year, we were like, okay, come on, like, I'm giving you some examples, okay? This is what you would normally write as a prompt, and this is the performance. This is Braid, and this is its performance. Now, I need your help in turning this into a real academic work and do more benchmarks, more like, academically accepted research grade benchmarks, so that the numbers, the results are indisputable, and we share this with the world. And it took me a very, 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 very long time, lots of discussions with him to convince him. And it happened in the end. He was like, okay, I get you. I'm gonna give this a look. All right. He didn't believe me at first. He said, I'm gonna take a look. Just tell me what you're doing, and I'm gonna replicate this in my whole environment, in my lab. And he did that. And he was like, this is unbelievable. This is working. And the world needs to know about this. And of course, developers, engineers, and academicians are like pirates, right? If you promise huge loot somewhere, like, there are huge benefits, huge gains here on this island, and I have the map, right? You can embark on a dangerous, deathly journey there, and like, everyone will join you, and they're gonna follow, and they're gonna want to take part in it. And that's basically what happened here in this work. And I'm super proud, super grateful for all of his time. Like, I don't know how many hours we put into this, hundreds of hours each into this work, and today we're seeing the results.
Well worth it. So you heard it here first, and this is not something that will be shocking to our audience that loves cryptocurrency and blockchain and Web3 enthusiasts. They know that the powers that be, also conspiracy theorists, you come in, lean in. Most big AI companies, they make money every time you use their models, right? So they may have been intentionally holding back what they're doing. But more importantly, they may also not know how to improve what they're doing on your behalf to keep their companies afloat profit-wise. So they will not be looking to improve their reasoning, and definitely not on your behalf. So there's a built-in tension here. They're happy, and I'm talking about Grok, I'm talking about Claude, I'm talking about, somebody brought up anti-gravity in the chat, talking about Google. They're happy to make it good enough to feel useful, but not necessarily so good and efficient that it kills a lot of their usage and revenue. And you brought up in this amazing paper that I cannot wait to share with the community, this concept of performance per dollar, not something that I've heard about before.
Yeah.
What is that?
Obviously, so we're going to go over the paper section by section in a little bit, but and we address this there, right? A lot of the papers are citing, marginal gains on top of stock models, state-of-the-art models, but no one actually looked into the economic value of this. Like, can we quantify how much money this saves us? Because in the end, that's what matters, right? With monetary gains also comes speed gains. We want faster results for autonomous inference. Like, these agents will work autonomously on our behalf, but we want them to be fast. We cannot wait 10 minutes for an answer, because some benchmarks do that. Some models do that. Like, they take 10 minutes and a shit ton of money to give you the result that you're looking for. But that's not just practical. That doesn't work for us. We're in need of immediate answers. And performance per dollar is a metric that we invented. I don't know why it's up to us to invent that. Like, I would expect other researchers to do that before us, but that's practically what we invented to quantify how effective these models are and these solutions are. And so I guess it's our belief. We did a lot of literature surveys, what we call it, like a lot of scanning of all of the papers that are published to find some comparable Claude work. We couldn't find any. So you can cite us on that. And if there are any, we would like to do corrections on the paper. But we're introducing performance per dollar as a metric to tell you how much your single dollar is worth. Like, are you getting $1 worth of work out of your execution? Or are you getting $30 worth of work out of your single dollar, or $75 worth of work? That's basically what that metric is. Very easy to understand. Just how much quality do I buy with the single dollar? And we're introducing it in this paper. We're laying down huge charts, tables that tell you the performance per dollar of hundreds of model combinations of GPT 5 Nano, 4.1 Mini, 5.1. We're practically mixing and matching different models to see which model gives you the best bang for your buck, if you will. And yeah, that's why I believe it's the most real and important metric when we're talking about AI, because it's not only accuracy, it's not only cost, it's not only time, but it's basically a combination of all of those things, and it's a very, very simple metric.
We got a comment, and because we're OpenServ, we're open minded here, and I wanted to bring this up. Rob 2024, Rob, you got to update your username. Okay, it's we're heading into 2026 now, but we're happy to have you joining us. Thank you so much. Look at pricing models that are based on value, not on consumption. Sorry, guys, you're going off the rails here. Take your tin hat off. It sounds too good to be true, Arman. You're talking about 30 times in cost
Yeah.
saving, and he's talking about, you can't price by value if the engine underneath is unpredictable.
Ooh, I lost you. Or did I lose myself?
I
Was it
lost you
your
for a
voice?
second there. Yeah.
Okay, wait. I'm back, I hope.
Yep.
Good. Sorry, you were saying
I was saying the pricing should be based on value in the long run, maybe.
right,
I'll let you speak to that. You're the expert here,
right,
but we're
right,
focused on making AI behave more like a reliable machine and
right,
less like a moody one. And once you
right.
know this task will always cost this much, then you can price on outcomes instead of usage. And I was saying you
Exactly.
can't price by value if the engine or a reasoning framework underneath is unpredictable. It is, and we're trying to make it predictable, right?
Right. So here's a very important piece of information. Some people might have missed it. About a year ago, or maybe a year and a half ago, the former CEO of OpenAI, who left the company now, um, had a public announcement. I guess the second day of her assuming office, because there was a turmoil at OpenServ, and they changed a lot of seats. Sam Altman was kicked out of the company, if you remember those times. So the CEO then said, we're also looking into changing our pricing model to be based on value that we deliver to the customer, and not based on the tokens, not based on the consumption. And it's been about a year and a half, or maybe a year. I don't know. I don't remember the timelines. It's been a very long time. That CEO is gone. Sam Altman is back. And OpenAI still charges based on consumption in the API. They just couldn't find a way to charge people based on value, because, as you said, it's unpredictable. And this is further made impossible by the fact that their recent reasoning models, this is a little bit technical, but bear with me, have a parameter called temperature1, which makes it more creative with the answers, which increases the inconsistency of the answers. In previous models, 3.540 and other models, you'd be able to set the temperature to 0, which means give me exactly the same answer every time I ask you this question, which is really predictable. Then you can work with that. But now, since the new architectures just cannot work with deterministic approaches, they now have this temperature parameter default to 1. You cannot change it, which means you're getting inconsistent results all the time. Only if there was a way to make these machines behave more predictably.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're revealing today.
That's beautiful. And back to what you were saying about performance per dollar, right? everybody wants to get value instead of just, when I spend $1, I assume I'm getting $1 of value, but it's great
Hmm.
when you get $2 of value or $30 of value for that $1,
Right.
right?
Right.
And we're in the season of shopping here, at least in the States. $75 for each dollar that you pay. I mean, that's a ridiculous outcome. So
It is.
I think performance per dollar is pretty fair between models, right? You benchmark a ton of models here,
Right.
and some combos here with GPT-5. I saw
Right.
GPT-5 Nano,
Right.
4.1, Mini, 5.1, and you see
Right.
which setups give the most work done per dollar, not just the fanciest model. So a
Right.
very fair benchmarking here across the board, it seems.
Yeah. The idea there is some of the models are old, right? Like GPT 4.0 or 4.1. No one uses them anymore, or like only old applications written in that era use them. But turns out that sometimes they're really useful in bringing out this cost efficiency, and you can really use them. Or like the nano models, the modern nano models, they're still very useful, even though no engineer would think of building a, you know, high accuracy enterprise grade application with GPT-5 Nano. It just doesn't work that way. It's not. It doesn't understand you. It's not consistent enough until you introduce it to Braid. That's basically where we're using Braid with the cheapest models out there, and we're getting a lot of value out of this. And we're obviously not done yet. This work will continue. We're gonna keep improving Braid, and we're gonna keep improving these efficiency gains. And we actually laid it out in the future work section of the paper. And the future is way brighter than where we are right now. But even today, these numbers are real. I know, like it's sounds crazy. I know
It
it sounds
does.
crazy. That's why we have this academic paper. Like I was telling Dr. Ayup, hey, like before this all started, right? Like in order to convince them, hey, like the default accuracy is like 20%, and I cannot use that in an enterprise application. And I get it to 90% with Braid, and this deserves a paper. And it was like, I don't know, maybe that's something, just that's a one-off trick, one of um, success story. And that's why in these benchmarks we have, I guess, more than 100,000 different tasks, different question and answer combinations, more than 100,000 generations, AI generations, to prove the point that on average, the gain is 30%, 30 times, not 30%, 3,000 times. Let's get used to it. Obviously, certain model combinations are not performing that well, right? Sometimes the PPD is 1, meaning you get $1 worth of value by spending $1, which is what you would get with the default GPT-5 model. Sometimes you get like 0.69, which means it's actually worse. Don't use that. But they are the outliers, and we're not interested in them. We're interested in what gives us practically the same amount of performance for 30 times less money. And certain combinations of these models enable that. And this paper is talking about that.
Absolutely ridiculous. Can we quickly talk about some of the statistics and kind of break some of these highlights down so that when people get their hands on this, their grubby little hands on this research paper, they can kind of get it? So, 272 total reasoning tasks evaluated. And you said over 100,000 what?
So we only have 272 questions in a data set, in a benchmark. And then we have additionally 100 questions in another benchmark and 100 questions in another benchmark, bringing the total of tasks, individual independent tasks, to 472. And then you practically try all of these over and over again for all the model combinations, right? What if this model produces the Braid reasoning framework, and this model solves the Braid reasoning framework? And then you do all the combinations, and we're benchmarking 9 to 13 different models for each data set, which brings the total amount of tasks to about 100,000.
Wow, that's ridiculous. And
Yeah.
And people, we're ready to battle the other AI models out there, right? We're ready for our first rap battle, AI battle, whatever you want to call it, agent battle. I also saw up to 100x efficiency gains for
Yeah.
performance per dollar.
Yeah.
So in some configurations, which is ridiculous. So you're actually giving founders the
Yeah.
same incredible tools and the best reasoning in the world at fees that they can afford, at with tokens they can afford, so they can compete. Because most founders don't fail because their idea is bad. We talk about it all the time. The tools get too expensive, things start working. Just search on Reddit for anybody talking about N8N. The systems break when they're left alone because they're not truly agentic, which is check out Shadow Agents episode 1 and 2. And then the progress slows down when the human attention is removed, right? Because there's no
Right.
babysitter.
Right.
So what do you want to get into first here? I know that you teased an amazing graphic earlier on Telegram.
Right.
Um, can we get into some of this paper? I know people
Yes.
are hungry
Yes.
to hear more about what you got for us.
With my pleasure. So I'm going to go over the paper. This part is going to be academic, okay? But you have to hear this because we are changing the world here. So you just have to bear with us. This is just great work. You have to hear this. And that's why I'm going to walk over the paper. I'm going to make it as digestible as possible. I'm going to break it down. But if you're reading the screen as I'm scrolling, you're going to see some academic terms, some like interesting phrasing that you might not be familiar with. It's all okay. I'm going to tell you in human terms what these mean. So we basically start with what we're doing, right? Like what this paper is for. This is called the abstract. It's just a summary of the paper. Basically, Braid introduces a bounded reasoning framework that prevents models from drifting away from your actual intent so that they stick to actually what you gave them in order to execute their tasks. And this performs much better than unbounded natural language token generation thinking models. They're just doing that. They're generating tokens for you as if you wrote them. We talked about this before. Take any thinking model, right? If you personally copied and pasted the thinking process of any model into a new prompt and disabled thinking, you're pretty much going to get the same results because it's just creating tokens for you as if you wrote them. And that increases the noise because language is noisy. And we discussed this too in our previous Shadow Agents episodes. And Braid practically introduces a machine readable structured prompt that alleviates all of these problems. Now, most important thing is these numbers are available at Benchmark OpenServ AI, so feel free to check them out. And this paper is basically putting some meaning behind those numbers that you see on that webpage. So let's go. The introduction sections on each paper. This is also, I love this. It's a tutorial on paper reading. I'm hoping that this is going to help other people too if they read other papers in the industry. And Ryan, you might want to zoom out a little bit because we're on top of the text right now on the right hand side, or maybe like put us at the bottom. I don't know. So the introduction section just talks about what really is out there, what is the state of the art with different research papers, with the existing industry models, and how people are dealing with this problem or how they thought about dealing with this problem. And the first thing that you're going to see here is chain of thought, prompting, and unstructured reasoning. Okay. Now, this is the state-of-the-art approach to reasoning in AI. This is what you see in ChatGPT when it's thinking, or in Gemini, or in
They all
other
use
models.
chain of thought.
Yeah, they all use chain of thought. And chain of thought is a paper that came out in 2022. It was a seminal paper. It changed the industry. We're hoping Braid will be the same. We're hoping that it's going to change the industry again. But what it does is basically it's generating step-by-step solutions to a problem. It's almost thinking step by step. And it was practically enabled by the sentence. And this was very popular back in the day. Everyone was writing about this on social media. Just add, let's think step by step at the end of your prompt, whatever you're doing, and the AI will do a much better job. And you see that the accuracy would go from 10% to 40% on some math questions, which is a significant jump. It's 4x, right? Very good number. And 10% is useless, 40% is maybe useful. And the problem is it's sometimes incorrect or suboptimal. And people thought, let's put multiple chains of thought together and choose the best one, right? And it's still not really that easy. So they decided, okay, what if we think like a programmer, or the agent thinks like a programmer and writes almost like a software representation of your idea, what you want to get out of the agent, and maybe it's going to do a better job. And people figured out that it's actually doing a little bit better, but it's also not like 30x improvement. And further work actually showed us, this section is very important, that classic chain of thought reasoning increases the token length, right? It generates more tokens for you, which means it's generating a lot of nonsense, gibberish, that also doesn't really add value to what you're writing. And it introduces noise. Now, this is a very important term in signal processing. It's what you hear, that static noise, right? No one likes that in audio. But that's what we introduce with chain of thought. Many of these tokens carry low semantic density or low value. So they're not useful at all. But they still incur cost at the same level. And this is especially more problematic in configurations like GPT-5 High, which is the configuration of the highest thinking tokens generation for GPT-5. It's writing basically an essay for your one single sentence query in order to answer that. It adds to this noise. So it's actually not working in your favor. The highest thinking models are not working in your favor because the model is not smart enough to get out of that loop. And it puts itself in the wrong path. It keeps on that wrong path. Now, this is a relatively recent paper that came out. No one is paying attention. Obviously, this is escaping the big boys of the industry because, of course, again, with token usage, they charge more money, right? This is in their interest to charge more money. So if you think about it, it's crazy. In GPT-5, there are no models that you can use without thinking. You cannot zero out the thinking at all. They only introduced that in GPT 5.1 because everyone was like, come on, we don't want these thinking tokens. Like, just remove them because it's adding cost and latency, delays to the response because it's generating those tokens first before it generates the response. Apparently, OpenAI is listening. So in GPT 5.1, there's a way to turn off thinking, but it's just not enough. So people or the field has moved towards structured prompting. And this is where Braid comes in. It's a way to do these structured prompts so that we save on costs and we save on efficiency. And what we do is, rather than letting the model think aloud, Braid constrains reasoning paths to deterministic logical flows. Do this, do that, and then do this, and then do that. But instead of human language, we do this in a machine-readable language that is native to these large language models. So, yeah.
Okay, so
eliminate
standard.
we eliminate the internal monologue of these models. That's what they're thinking, right? So they're not verbose, they're not off topic, but they stick to exactly what you want to get out of them.
So the standard that we all, when I'm sitting there waiting for the prompt to finish, generating a response, I'm assuming this is giving me a much better, smarter answer, but essentially it's just costing more money.
Well, obviously it helps, right? It improves the accuracy of your results, of your answers, but at what cost? Like, no one talks about the cost.
Yeah, I mean, the long thoughts are they're often partly wrong too, right? They're not always the best way to solve the problem or the prompt that I'm asking.
Yeah,
And sometimes they make the model spit out like a lot more text, like more text, more noise, unnecessary words. I don't really need that. And I'm sure that our founders don't, right? And especially not at a higher cost because you pay for every token, whether it's useful or not.
right, right. And in an API, in a real application, which is something I'm building with multiple teams every day, it's really difficult to use these high thinking models because the latency is so much. Sometimes it takes like 5 minutes, 10 minutes to answer a very simple question. And before it can answer, the API just times out and refuses to respond. It just drops your connection. So you have to retry and you have to burn those tokens again to get an answer. And in fact, in this benchmark, we first started with thinking model. We call this reasoning effort with high reasoning effort. And then we had to turn it off because half of the questions just were unanswered. Like OpenAI just drops the connection. You cannot benchmark high reasoning effort models. That's why we remove them from the equation, because it's also like economically very, very irrelevant, let's say, to a builder, to an app builder. You'd work much better with nano models, minimal thinking, minimal reasoning, and you would expect the same level of reasoning and accuracy. And that's what Braid is enabling here.
Wow, phenomenal. And for those who are still with us, he's still giving us a quick how to read this paper. Okay, the
Yes,
abstract is the summary, then introduction explains what exists today, meaning
yes,
what we've actually researched and checked everything that's out there, scouring the internet. This was not done by me, okay? This was done by Arman here and Dr. Ayup, right? So this is also including every single possible competitive thought here that that could withstand against the claims made here or the research done here, but still there are huge gaps that Braid fills. So Arman, we'll let you continue.
yeah. So very early in the paper, we wanted to demonstrate what we're talking about, right? And what we're looking at here is what you would really do as a human. We call this zero-shot prompting. If you have a mathematical problem, let's say, if a book costs $18 and you buy 7 books, how much do you pay in total? And what happens is then the model creates these. I love these things. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. Yay. The model
Good celebration.
creates these thinking tokens, right? Each book costs $18. There are 7 books. 18 times 7 is 126. Therefore, you pay $126. This is what you would get today with thinking models. And then there's a way to improve this with certain examples so that the model takes examples from what you provided and to give you a better answer, right? And we also put Braid alongside them. We generate something like this. I'm going to do something weird. Let me zoom in a little bit. We generate something like this. This is not human language. This is like machine readable. Obviously, we can also read that, but it's mostly machine readable flowchart. So from state A, which is the start, go to step B, which is calculating price per book. Then from step B, you go to step C, find the total number of books, and compute the total cost, which is price times books, and then create the answer, right? And then you give the question, and then it uses this graph, this flowchart, to do the reasoning and to answer, and it gives you the correct answer that you're looking for. So this is basically what Braid essentially is. Okay. We replace the natural language prompt with structured symbolic reasoning paths expressed in a language called Mermaid. You wouldn't believe it, but this is a language, a computer language called Mermaid. Now, let's talk about the key contributions. We show that we have matching or better accuracy across multiple tiers. We do some quantitative economic analysis of these models and their combinations, and we talk about some efficiency gains, introducing performance per dollar metric, and then hopefully this is going to be an industry standard, and now all of the papers coming up or all of the models will talk about the performance per dollar. And it's great that your new model is doing 5% better on a certain benchmark, but let's talk about the cost. Like, did you really improve performance per dollar? Because that is very, very important for real life applications. Now, then we talk about more related work in the industry. This is a must for any academic paper. You have to know what you're talking about. You have to know the competition, other work that the academicians did, and compare what you claim in your own paper. And there is a work called structured chain of thought. It improves the performance by 14% over plain natural language reasoning, which is great. 14% is not a small number. It's a significant improvement. Everyone would love to have 14% more salary, for example, or like 14% less cost. Everyone would love that. So it's a great paper. And then we start talking about our experiments, how we did these things. And we started with 472 different questions from 3 different data sets. Scale multi-challenge is what OpenAI used as a benchmark to talk about the launch of GPT-5. Okay. GSM Hard gives you 100 grade school mathematics questions that are made extra difficult by manipulating the numbers. So the numbers are really huge. Sometimes funny questions, like kids having 15 million siblings and so on. Half of them are male, half of them are female. They have like 10 million uncles. It is crazy. Some numbers are inflated, but it makes the problem more difficult to compute for these large language models. And then the benchmark that I loved most came out of Meta, I guess last week or 2 weeks ago. I guess it came out 2 weeks ago. It's called Advanced Instruction Following, and it also has a huge number of questions. We picked 100 of them randomly, completely randomly, and we just put them to test with Braid. And how we do that is by following a 2-stage protocol. So what we do in the first stage is we take a model, we generate a Braid diagram to solve that question. And then we take another model to solve this diagram. And we say, hey, here's a diagram for you, go and solve it to answer this question. That's all we say. Which is what you would do in a real life setting in an application. You would have a system prompt and you have a user prompt. Your system prompt is normally natural language, multiple paragraphs explaining what the model should do. And then you give the user request. And we're replacing those multiple paragraphs with symbolic charts, flow charts, for reasoning process. And we take multiple combinations like medium to nano, nano minimal to mini medium, multiple names, very confusing. And we look at token usage and API costs. And we figure out the accuracy of these results, these responses. And of course, we have a baseline performance. That's GPT-5, the default GPT-5 model. We take that as the baseline. I think it's a very sane default right now, one of the most powerful models out there. And whatever it says true, like whatever performance it gives you, it's basically like performance of 1. We say, $1 worth of value is defined by GPT-5's output, basically. Now, we didn't do chain of thought here because the models are already thinking on their own, and we wanted to see their natural performance. So we didn't specifically ask for another chain of thought, and we're comparing Braid to the model performance as if you're writing in your natural language. And for the 2 benchmarks, scale and advanced instruction following benchmarks, the results are not numerical, right? There's a long conversation with a user, and the AI is tasked, the large language model is tasked with figuring out the last response. But how do you know that last response is valid? It's a very I'm back. Did
Yep,
you
we
lose
lost
me
you
or
for a sec. We lost you for a second, but we're still rolling here, and so no
okay?
problem here. Just
Where was I?
well, I'll wrap it. I'll wrap up where you just were for the audience, right? You had a diagram where you showed how we use AI today, right? You
Mm-hmm.
ask the question once, the model thinks out loud in natural language, and then works through the steps in a paragraph. And then you were talking about some of the more advanced prompting tricks that current
Mm-hmm.
models have out there. Yeah, this diagram. It was so that
Mm-hmm.
you either guide the model step by step with multiple questions, or you show it a few examples so it learns the pattern. And but what Braid is doing instead of these paragraphs, because English and our language is horrible for AI reasoning. We're speaking a machine native language for them, so that
Right.
our model builds a tiny flow chart in a very special
Yeah.
machine readable format, I guess. And that flow
Yes.
chart says, first find the price per book and then the number of books, then multiply it, then give the answer.
Right.
And the model is forced to follow this map and this flow
Yeah.
chart. So it's
Right.
literally bounded reasoning, shorter, cheaper, harder to drift off, hallucinate, all that. And then you talked about, which I think is incredible, because GPT 5.2 just came out. I was just talking about it with my wife, how it just came
Right.
out. And you already have it in this academic paper. You're using
Yes.
OpenAI's frameworks what they use to show off how great GPT-5 is. You're using Meta's new advanced instruction following for
Right.
the tricky multi-step instruction. You're using literally the best frameworks and models in the world to
Right.
benchmark where Braid is today.
Right. As an example, there was a paper that came out like about a month ago. The models they were using were GPT 4.1, which is I think a year old now. So you know, I don't think that would be fair to show the performance gains in GPT 4.1, even though we have them as some models in our benchmarks. It's just not a good comparison. It's much better to work with GPT-5 because that's the default best model people use. So we want to show that we're better even when you're using GPT-5 or GPT 5.1, which is crazy. And I was saying we are using GPT 5.2 as a judge to determine the responses for the scale and advanced instruction following benchmarks. Because in those benchmarks, you have a conversation history, and the task is to come up with the last agent's response, the last response of the agent. And how do you know if that's a good response? It's very difficult. You ask a rubric of questions. You ask maybe like 5 to 10 questions. Does the answer satisfy this? Does the answer satisfy that? And what are you going to use to judge that? You could use a human for sure, but please try that on 50,000 tasks. Please try asking 10 questions for 50,000 questions or responses. It's impossible, basically. It doesn't work. So we're using a judge large language model, and the best one that we could find, the most critical one, the one that's going to yield the least performance, the most critical one is GPT 5.2. We tested all the other models as judges, and all of the others are like very permissive. Yeah, it's fine. It works as an answer. But if you judge it like a human, no, the answer just falls apart. It's just not good. And GPT 5.2 is doing a very, very good job in being critical as a judge. And that's basically what we are using. It's practically arguably the best model out there today. Just came out, what, a couple of days ago? 2 or 3 days ago, but we're using GPT 5.2 as a judge. So for scale and advanced instruction following data sets, we have a machine evaluating the answers, and it might be incorrect. So that's something that every single paper out there has to do. The performance of GPT 5.2 is deciding the outcome, the performances of all the other models. But since it's judging all of the questions and all of the model combinations, I think it's fair. So because we're looking at comparisons between classic approaches and Braid, it's fair. But for GSM hard, there's actually a numerical answer, right? Because it's a mathematical question. There's a simple numerical value that you expect in the response. There, we don't use a judge. There, we use just a strict matching. Like, is it fitting, like what the LLM output, is it fitting with what we expect to see as a response? Now, there's a question with mathematical problems. That's why we wanted to address that in our paper as well. How are you going to reason for a mathematical problem? Usually, mathematical problems or solutions don't benefit from reasoning. There's nothing to consider. There's no trade-offs. There's no should I pick this or should I pick that? That will lead you to different answers, right? If you know the solution to a problem, it's basically applying that solution step by step. Does that make sense? There's not a lot to decide when it comes to mathematical questions if you know the solution. So when we put GSM hard to test, what we saw was crazy. The braid generation models are practically solving the question, the problem. And then the actual model that we're testing is just reading the response. We call this answer leakage. The answer is already generated at a higher tier model, and then a economically cheaper, affordable alternative is just reading the response. So it's not really testing the performance of the cheaper model, right? And it's not really showing off the benefits of braid. So in order to combat this, listen very closely. What we did here is kind of genius. We masked the numbers in the mermaid braid flowchart. So it says, like, if you go back to that example, it generates something like this, right? Each book costs $18. There are 7 books, blah, blah. This already gives you the answer. So this is not a good prompt because it already gave you the answer. The task the large language model would do would be to just get you the response. It's not a good benchmark. What we did is we're replacing these numbers with placeholders, just an underscore. So the model that's solving this never sees actual numbers here. So it has to compute those numbers on its own, which is truly showing the benefits of this approach, braid, in mathematical questions. Does that make sense? So braid maintains the logical flow, the topology of the mathematical solution, but the model, the solution model, actually fills in the gaps and actually does the thinking and the calculations and everything, which is, I guess, unheard of in the industry still. But we thought this would be the best way to show how this is doing in terms of mathematical benchmarks. If you're into solving mathematical questions, we just wanted to show it because a lot of the papers out there are listing their performance gains on GSM benchmarks, grade school math question benchmarks. We also wanted to include that in our paper. So let's talk about performance per dollar, right? We have a bunch of equations.
Waiting to get to this. I'm excited about PPD.
Equations here. So we need to have a discussion here. We have some costs for creating the braid diagram, right? And then some costs for solving that diagram for any given problem. Now, we normally recommend you to write your braid diagrams by hand because that's something you can do, or generate it once with a large language model and then optimize it by hand. Does that make sense? Like, as a human, you're reasoning much better. Of course, you can optimize it. And that's what we've been doing in production all the time. So if you're generating it once with a large language model, it definitely has a cost. But that cost will go to practically zero across n number of queries. Like if you're reusing it 1,000,000 times, that cost will practically be negligible. It's going to be zero, right? The cost of creating that diagram in the first place will be zero because it's reused 1,000,000 times. Because remember, we're talking about agentic setups. These devices will be set up, these agents will be set up to work on your behalf nonstop, doing the tasks that you give to them tens of thousands of times, maybe millions of times. So that's cost of generating the braid chart is negligible because it's happening only once. Compare this to chain of thought. In chain of thought, that has to happen every single time. Every single time you talk to GPT, if you choose a thinking model on ChatGPT, it's still doing the thinking. Even if you give it the exact same prompt, it's still doing the thinking, right? It's still generating tokens, so it's costing you money. With Braid, we're practically taking that down to zero. It's going to be negligible because Braid will generate that only once. If you generate it with a machine, and we recommend writing it by hand or optimizing it by hand. So then,
that's crazy.
Yeah, the cost becomes only the cost of inference, only the cost of generation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because you pay to create the flowchart once, reuse it, you can reuse it millions of times in agents, so the
Right.
planning costs per run
Right.
becomes almost zero.
Right. And of course, like, don't get me wrong, the creation of a braid mermaid diagram practically takes like 2 cents to create it once.
Wow.
And then you reuse it a million times, of course. So there is therefore an amortized form of this equation that we're introducing.
And for reference to 2 cents, for anybody who doesn't use US dollars, I drove by a McDonald's today when I was picking up my son from school, and they don't give out pennies in change anymore. Okay, because there's a shortage in the United States of pennies because they're that worthless. So 2 pennies, I think you get a pass there, and that's why PPD looks so much better for Braid in real high
Yes.
volume agent setups.
Yes. Again, in chain of thought, you create these thinking, reasoning tokens every single time for every query. For Braid, you don't need that part at all. At all. You just need to do the mermaid flowchart only once, which is the real breakthrough. Now, there are more and more equations here, but in the end, it's basically the accuracy over the cost of your model or your selected model versus the accuracy over cost of the baseline, which is GPT-5, default GPT-5, right? So divide the performance of your model by GPT-5's performance, and you get PPD. It's a very simple metric. I don't know why no one came up with it before. I don't know. It's a very simple metric.
That's because you're a genius. You know, that's what happens. And with Dr. Ayup, I mean, it's out of this world. And I want to tease for people that tomorrow we will have a full-on AMA deep dive with Arman here, so you can ask your questions between today and tomorrow. You can understand this, and we have people in the comments clamoring for access to this paper. And yeah, we know I've been clamoring for it as well, and you can
Coming
tell
up.
I'm excited. But yeah, I think Braid is letting you design a solid reasoning plan once, reuse it at scale, saving you money, giving you more performance per dollar. Your dollar pays way more. It buys way more correct work with today's latest thinking models, the latest benchmarks. All the data is here. And this is what was teased earlier today, and what we've all been waiting for you to break this down. And just after this, I'm going to share a message from a community member, and it
Right.
kind of puts this whole thing into context.
So what we're looking at here is the first results from the grade school math hardened dataset. Again, I'm not a personal fan of mathematical questions and benchmarks because that's not what we're doing in real life. Does it make sense? There are no agents people are using to solve these kind of questions. So it doesn't really, like, it's not real world usage, but it's a very widely used benchmark, so we had to include it. And what you see here is the blue charts are what kind of performance you get with Braid, and the hatched charts or bars are what you get out of the model by default. So obviously GPT 5.1 is doing great here. It's doing, like, it's having a 97% accuracy over there, which is great. But with Braid, it's going to 100 easily. But what is more interesting is some other models like GPT-5 Nano Minimal, which is like the cheapest GPT-5 model that you can get. I think it's 10 times cheaper, 20 times cheaper, something like that, versus GPT-5. Its default performance is 16%, and we're getting it up to 97%. Crazy work. It's, yeah, I don't know what to tell you about that. The results are speaking for themselves. But again, this is a mathematical benchmark, and you see GPT-5 medium, the default GPT-5 has kind of already aced it. It's scoring at 99%. So this is also not even a relevant benchmark anymore for more applications. But what this is important for is showing the relative gains from a very cheap model that everyone would use in production. Like people would love to use GPT-5 Nano Minimal. It's just not good. The default performance is just this bad. But with Braid, you can get it to 97%. So this is practically what I showed Dr. Eyup to convince him in the first place. I was like, hey, I guess we had GPT 4.1 Nano back then, or maybe 4.0 Mini. I was like, man, please look at this. Like, this is default performance, and this is what I do with Braid. Okay, like we have to write this paper. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. So let's have a look at scale multi-challenge. Again, this is the benchmark OpenAI used in revealing GPT-5. And we have significant achievement across the board. Again, GPT-5 Nano Minimal, 23%, 24%, up to 45%. These are like crazy numbers. But this, of course, don't tell the entire story, because it's not performance per dollar. This is just performance. This is just accuracy. But if you multiply it or divide it by the cost of this generation, that's how you get those juicy numbers, all right? And Braid can be therefore used in two ways: to increase the accuracy of your models. Even if you're using the best model out there, GPT 5.1 medium, there's still some gains. See, this is medium level reasoning, which is going to output a lot of tokens for each question. It's thinking for each question. And GPT 5.none doesn't think at all. It has 0 reasoning tokens. This has only result generation tokens, okay? These are the tokens that you need as an answer. There is 0 waste here. And look at this. The default value, the default performance of GPT 5.1 Nano is 48%. It's unusable. If you use the medium thinking one, it's 59.9. It's great, right? Like, this is the best performance that you can ever hope for. GPT 5.1, 59.9% performance. But look at this beautiful chart. If you use Braid with GPT-5 none, for a fraction of the cost, you get better performance than GPT 5.1 medium, which creates a lot of tokens, which introduces latency and a lot of cost for you. Zero cost for thinking, and you get better performance. So if you want better reasoning, use Braid. If you want cheaper inference, use Braid. I know what to tell you.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the cost is the real magic here as well. Yes, Braid is, and the SERV reasoning framework is like ketchup for fast food, or it's like whipped cream for ice cream. It just makes everything better, right? But it's also making it more affordable. And listen, the gains look good. When you factor in cost, this is what really matters to businesses that make revenue. This is where the revenue is. It's not
Yeah.
being eaten up by AI tokens. Now it can go back into the profitability of the business.
100%. And again, like sometimes in certain tasks, accuracy is really important, right? Sometimes accuracy is not that important. Sometimes you want a little bit of creativity even with structured reasoning built in. And that's why, we can look at this benchmark result, for example. 18% is too low. It's just unusable in any application. But 40%, you could give it a pass, right? It's better than GPT-5 Nano Medium, right? You could give it a pass in certain situations. So there's a lot of benefit in using Braid, and regardless, it's like across the board, it's just better. It's just making everything better. Now,
That's phenomenal. And
yeah,
these kinds of savings, I mean, people change companies, they grow businesses, they build new industries with
right,
small margins here.
right,
I mean, I'm sure a lot of people are still in disbelief what OpenServe has been able to accomplish from a workflow
yeah,
perspective. But now there's no more talking about Braid, right? There's no more talking about our reasoning. You're bringing it to the world here, and we're going to
right,
save a lot of people a lot of money and make AI smarter for the rest of the world's history.
right. So, what I can show you here, this is where the number 75 times comes from. All right. Look at this. This is a performance per dollar matrix. And just imagine what I personally had to go through to create all of these numbers. This is practically generating Braid charts with these models on the left, right? And solving those charts with the models at the top. Okay. And here in the results, you get the performance, the accuracy, and price per dollar, the PPD. Now, we saw earlier some models get 100% accuracy, right? Sometimes, again, you don't need 100% accuracy. Sometimes 97% is also acceptable. Because if you are okay with going down to 97%, you get 75 times gain in cost. This is crazy.
I mean, this is the headline, right? If you care about shipping real products, you should be thinking in performance per dollar. Everyone should be, because with the right reasoning framework, you can unlock 30 to 75, maybe even 100 times improved
Right.
results for your business. And that's more useful. The models that you already have access to. OpenServe works with any framework and any chain. You don't have to change what you're doing. You just
Exactly.
have to wake up to the fact that what you're doing is more expensive than it should be. And if you're a serious business owner, or if you're a founder or you want to be, this is your edge. This is how you win. This is how you keep your business surviving. Whether it's a down market or an up market, you'll be doing better than the team next to you.
There's one more thing that I want to talk about here. Look at some of these numbers: 0.47, 0.42. Like this combination, GPT-5 minimal and GPT-5 medium, get you 100%, right? But at what cost? It's costing you more than the double of what GPT-5 medium does by default. Now, compare this with the 75% here. Yeah, sorry, the 75 times here. I'm still conflating. It's still very difficult to believe. Like compared with the 75 times here, this actually becomes like 160 times, 170 times better than this combination, right? Because this is less than 1 and this is 75. Like divide 75.6. I'm actually going to do that right now. 75.6 over 0.42. It's 180 times. It's basically 180 times more effective, this combination over here. And this is why we included these old models. Sometimes we get like crazy performance out of them. GPT 4.1 mini generating these braid diagrams, because the 4.1 family is actually a very specific, very exotic family of models. In certain tasks, it's actually outshining everyone else, even the state-of-the-art models. If you generate the braid charts with GPT 4.1 mini and solve it with GPT-5 nano minimal, which is the cheapest, best model you can get, you get like 75 times efficiency. It's crazy. It's crazy.
It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. It is ridiculous.
So can we take a step back here, Armand? What does the world look like if and when the world adopts performance per dollar, braid reasoning, and what you've solved here? What does this change for businesses, assuming people actually wake up, want to save money, and make better use of their AI?
So this is a very, very hot take, but I'm going to do it. For over a year, I've been talking about this for over a year, right? Like the first conference that I revealed this kind of work or teased at this work, because we hadn't written the paper yet, was last year, July. Like I've been talking about this in Turkey, in Germany, online about this kind of work. And the title of that talk, like the first talk that I gave last year, was titled "A Path to AGI," Artificial General Intelligence. And I talked about how we cannot achieve it with large language models the way they are used today, and we need an alternative. And I ended up with a what if question. What if English is not the best language to prompt these agents? Was what I said, okay?
Right.
Now, the second iteration, the second talk I gave this year at the same conference was called A Path to AGI Volume 2, Moving Beyond Natural Language and into Structured Reasoning. And I unveiled Braid there with some of the earliest benchmark results. And what I believe we're going to achieve, which is now economically viable, is enabling AGI. I know it's a very hot take, and I agree with some of the shit people are talking about AGI, that you cannot achieve it with large language models and so on and so forth. But the main reason for that is because it's not economically viable to do so. Because the cost of creating the level of reasoning that AGI needs is off the charts. It's like there's no one who's going to pay for that.
Right.
Until you find a solution that's 75 times cheaper. Now, I cannot tell you what people will do with this technology. What can you do if electricity is 75 times cheaper? You can mine more Bitcoin. Imagine that.
Let's go.
So like, I cannot tell you what people will build with this technology. I can only give you the technology. And
Wow.
I can only hope that you're going to use it for the best intentions.
So you're basically saying that the blocker for AGI, and I've been listening to what Sam Altman and Elon Musk and others have been talking about, because they're asked about it constantly.
Right.
It's not, are models smart enough? It's, can we afford to run something that's smart all the time? And
Yes.
today's free form English only prompting, it makes deep reasoning, like good reasoning, thinking reasoning, insanely expensive. And I think
Right.
anybody who's used N8N or any of these other workflow tools other than OpenServ has found that not only is it expensive, but it's also unstable. So full
Right.
AGI behavior would literally be economically impossible at scale. But you're saying that Braid is kind of changing the economics here.
Exactly.
So that's a really hot take, because if you could turn reasoning into reusable, structured plans, bounded with cheap models that can follow directions extremely well and perform like the world's best models, you could
Right.
potentially get AGI like behavior at a cost that actually works. And that's
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah. I
That's
mean,
wild.
like, think of it this way. Maybe some people are fine paying what they're paying today, okay? But they want the best solution out there. Imagine this scenario. You can now run 75 times more LLM calls for the price of one. So you can explore 75 times more avenues for a single query. Obviously, some of them will perform outstanding, right? And you can do like maybe like generate 10 alternatives, then 5 alternatives for each, you're at 50, and then combine them and judge and vote on the best one. You get like crazy performance. You're still paying the same amount of money, because maybe like the cost of one LLM call is fine for you, but you can run it 75 times more. So you get like more alternatives and more responses, and choose the best one. So this enables so many different use cases. I cannot know what people are going to come up with it. So let's have a look at these charts over here. These are the costs, practically per question in each data set. And you see here, the blue ones are the Braid diagram generation costs. Sometimes they're higher, sometimes they're lower. Depends on the model. Like 5 was really verbose. 5.1 medium is not that verbose. So you can see like this is about 4.6 cents per generation. This is 1.9 cents per generation. And again, this will go to 0 as you reuse this. Whereas the classical models have to generate a lot of thinking tokens every single time. And here you see the classic costs of doing business. It's, let's say, 3.3 cents per response. And then if all you use is GPT-5 medium, it's 3.1 cents. But of course, what we're recommending is you generate the chart here with GPT-5 medium, for example, or GPT 5.1 medium, and you pay 2 cents for the diagram, right? Or you write it by hand. Okay, you could also write it by hand. And then go to these models over here. Like, do you see these numbers? These are crazy. Let me maybe zoom in a little bit. Do you see these numbers?
Oh my goodness.
0.025 cents. 0.
For GPT-5 Nano.
Yeah.
Which is the mobile version of GPT-5, right?
Yeah, it's the cheapest version of GPT-5.
Jeez.
And it's crazy, right? It's crazy, man. It's like, look at this solution cost, like 0.28 cent. This is not dollars, this is cents. So it's $0.00028 per response.
I'd love to run I'm actually going to build a workflow right now with Braid because I'm just going to straight up beat everybody on cost. I mean, when you pay a bit once to design the plan, and then each answer can be extremely cheap, like fractions of a cent, while the classic use keeps paying the full expensive cost on every single call, you're going to beat your competition. You're going to have better ratios for your audience and for your customers, and you're going to win. You're going to survive.
Yep. Practically. Yeah. Because GPT-5 Nano Minimal is practically unusable in production. You cannot trust it. It's not reliable. It's not accurate. You just cannot use it out of the box. Even if you try really, really hard with your own prompts, it's very difficult. So you default to using GPT-5 medium or GPT 5.1 medium, which is like the costs you see here. It's 2 cents versus 0.02 cents. So we basically wanted to close this gap, right? How do you make this model as smart as this model? And that's what Braid does. You can quote me on this one because I wrote the paper.
Oh, we will. We will. We'll be quoting you a lot on this, and we're excited for tomorrow's stream with even more to share, and we can get more in depth here. First of all, I mean, this is something that people will be talking about probably for years to come. So it's important that we really give people a deep dive in this initial chat. What else do you want to cover before we leave a little bit to the imagination for folks to ask questions?
Future work, super important. You can build specific architect models that are zeroing in on creating these braid diagrams, right? Fine-tuned for these braid diagrams, so that it's way, 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 way cheaper, okay? So you can actually create a new model from scratch called an architect model, and it can create these braid charts way more effectively. That's one of the parts that we need to talk about. It's great. And it's something that we're going to explore. I can announce here.
Whew. Let's explore it. Hey, we got a question from the audience.
All right.
From Mehmet009. Is Braid primarily reducing cost by shortening reasoning traces or by selecting cheaper models dynamically?
So we don't have an engine that selects cheaper models based on their performance right now. But I can say that it's reducing costs by making these models do smarter decisions, by not leaving any of the work of reasoning or decision making to the solving model, which is what chain of thought does, right? It asks the model to think, to solve. And we're acknowledging the fact that small models cannot do that very effectively. So we come up with a structured diagram of reasoning, logical reasoning, that makes sure that you don't even need a reasoning model anymore. Like you can just take that reasoning and just walk through that step by step, and you're going to have your answer. So that's how we reduce costs, basically. Offloading the reasoning part to more capable models and reusing them for the cheaper models. Now,
Wow.
last things that I want to talk about. We have a really great appendix section, appendices, that I want everyone to go through, because this is where we reveal how we're going to make use of Braid today.
Yes.
Please, Ryan, just give a look at this prompt and tell me what you see.
I see a very structured way of creating a flow chart.
Mm-hmm.
Seems pretty straightforward. Seems like there's a
Mhm.
plan that needs to be followed. I love
Mhm.
the dependencies in the second section. Only
Mhm.
mermaid code, start exactly with flowchart,
Right.
represent constraints. Okay, seems bounded. That's what it's coming across as.
So, like, I'm going to tell you, this is the only system prompt we use to generate the mermaid charts for all of these benchmarks. We could use a much more specific, much more powerful prompt. We could even use a braid that would be like Inception, braidception. We could use a braid prompt to generate these models, these braid charts. But we thought that this is what an average person would write. That doesn't know how to work with braid in detail, and we wanted to be as agnostic of the task as possible. And I know we're getting a performance hit because of this, because in real life, what we're doing is we don't have this at all. Like we write the mermaid diagram, the braid diagram by hand, because I'm the best architect, because I created this technology. I know how to best write it. And we're kind of simulating a human writing a braid diagram here with this system prompt. But you can see it's very basic, right? This is how I like to do research. It's very agnostic, very basic. There are no tricks, no magic numbers, no hidden swift hand movements to give you a better result. It's very simple, and we're putting it out there. And we're talking about like the PPD calculations and everything and what they mean. But we also talk about the principles of braid graph construction if you'd like to do it by hand. Okay. This is distilled information coming directly from me to create braid graphs by hand. And this is going to give you a great performance if you follow these. So we're also sharing these as part of this paper. And finally, okay, we have some more detailed charts of the tables that we discussed. But finally, we're giving you one such example of a reasoning graph for copyright constraint handling. Okay. This diagram depicts the automated planning process for a query involving copyrighted lyrics. The model explicitly maps out constraints, plagiarism checks, and 3 distinct creative solutions before executing the final response. This level of granular control is generated automatically, removing the need for human-authored decision trees. And just have a look at this. Like, you're going to see that this is very generic of any task in this field. So this is basically the brain of an agent working with copyright claims, right? We identify system constraints, and then these combine and let you determine approach based on plagiarism rule. Okay.
I know we're going to put this in robots, and we're training robots and getting robotics data for this, but can you please also help me install this into my children? They need some bounded reasoning frameworks and flowcharts like this. Stat. No, I'm just kidding. I got great kids.
So, yeah, I'm sure your wife would agree. These are, so this is a very simple example of a braid reasoning graph. And this is directly coming out of our benchmarks. This is from, I believe, advanced instruction following data sets. And you can see this example in our webpage for our benchmarks, because unlike everyone else, we're making it available. Like everything that we use to create this paper, we're making them available on our webpage, benchmark.openserv.ai, which is crazy. Like no one is this open. You can never find such a thing in anyone else's paper, but we're trusting ourselves that much. And like all of the benchmarks, so you're going to see there are no tricks nor anything. You can check all of the answers, all of the questions that are created, generated. You might even find some mistakes that the agents are making, the models are making, and we didn't correct them, because this is the raw performance you would get out of these models without any hand-tuned performance, right? Now imagine if you had some expertise in crafting this, how much more performance you'd get out of this. We don't want to speculate. There is no speculation here. These are just pure numbers based on the worst possible performances. And we're still talking about like 30 times gain, 75 times gain, usable gain. And you can go up to like 200 if you are okay with some lower accuracy. But yeah, so we also have an example braid charts. So you can inspect it and build your own. Enough screen sharing.
Wow. I mean, you did it. First of all, congratulations. Let me be the first to say congratulations. All right. Give you a round of applause there. This is absolutely phenomenal. And I think everybody here knows what we've just witnessed is not something we're going to see again for another generation. I mean, this is a true breakthrough. Um, and if you're building in 2025, 2026, this is about freedom for you as a builder. I mean, there's not been an opportunity like this before in production, in marketing, in engineering, in development, in founding a company. You are going to have freedom from wasting money, runaway costs, and this will all be completely integrated with the build, launch, and run suite of solutions for OpenServ for you to use every single day. So you can build your workflow, come up with your ideas, explore what kind of solutions you want to make. You could even launch a token around that workflow. And then you can have this kind of technology running your company for you. No more brittle systems that fall apart. Just check Reddit for N8N results and reviews. Just check what other people are using to try to make agentic workflows. They're not
Brutal.
working well. It's really, really brutal, and people are wasting money. I've heard reports that Fortune 500 companies and analysts believe that we are about 7 years ahead, marketing wise, from where AI workflows actually are, because they've been waiting for technology like this. This is why OpenServe exists. This is the moment. This is just the beginning. So tomorrow evening, 7:30 p.m. CET, we're hosting a full AMA with this genius over here. Okay. We're going to dive deeper into the research paper, walk through, yes, our roadmap for all of this and more, answer your questions directly. And beyond that, we have more announcements coming, product updates, some roadmap milestones we're excited to share with you, and what this unlocks next for founders building on OpenServe. So, Armand's going to share the paper. You got to be in the Telegram if you want early access. Armand, we're
Right.
looking forward to seeing that PDF. Bring your
Yep.
questions. Join us tomorrow. We're just getting started.
Yep. We'll drop it now. And I have to tell you, it's like 3 a.m. in Berlin. And I'm dying of sleep, but I wanted to complete this and then get this out in the end of the people. And I'm so happy and so grateful that OpenServe actually like gave me this opportunity in my life. Like this is not a marketing stunt. I wouldn't be able to do this anywhere else. No company would be crazy enough to say, okay, here's a collaboration with a top-notch world-class researcher and do your thing and just give us some results. But this is, because we believe in autonomy, we also take these risks. And I'm very, very proud that we were able to show these gains today. And I'm very much looking forward to my CNN interview tomorrow.
That's right. Listen, we're working on it. Okay, it's coming soon. We're gonna look back on this and laugh. I'm right. This is a moment in history for us. So, congratulations to you, your first academic paper in 15 years.
Yeah.
Congratulations to everybody in the OpenServ team and our community. And I wanted to share. I just wanted to share a quick video with everyone that has stuck around and been a part of our community and followed the journey that we've been on. There's a video that I wanted to share from our community member that I think encapsulates what it's like as a reality as a founder here. So please give me a second and we'll pop this up. Now this is from PT Barnum. He is the serve lore. He is a quite committed community member here for the OpenServe community. Literally one of the best people on the internet. But more than anything, he is actually a founder, right? He is a builder. He is a real community member, but he's also somebody who owns a business. And he's not doing this for marketing. He's not doing this because we told him to do it. He shared this of his own volition. So I think speak for itself, and let's take a look at what this man has to share. Let me know if you can't hear this.
I think we cannot hear it.
Mm.
But the previous one actually worked. Like, I guess you played some music that
Oh
worked.
yeah, absolutely. So
This doesn't work.
okay, let me try to get this going here. And I've got some comments here. Oh, PT left us a comment here. Pour yourself a whiskey sour. PT, I'm trying to get your video going.
I'm
Um,
definitely. I was gonna say that. I'm definitely gonna do it, and PT already knows me really, really well. I'm gonna brew my own whiskey sour in a moment, and obviously enjoy this for the rest of the night.
Absolutely incredible. Um, well, we'll share the video in the Telegram again, and with the
All right.
braid paper, we'll put them side by side here. But yeah, I'll close this out, PT, with some nice chill music. Thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll see you all soon. Take care.